Why, hello there, Minnesota Vikings fans. It's your old pal Jacob, and today, boy, do I have a big video to share with you. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. So rumor has it there's a pretty big game on this Sunday night that could potentially alter how the playoffs and how all that stuff works going into next weekend. That is right, ladies and gentlemen. The thing that I've been trying to wheel into existence since we started on our winning streak. Lions, Vikings, Week 18, Sunday Night Football for the 1 seed and the NFC North title. Which team wants it? Which team gets it? Which team needs it, honestly, So we'll kind of break that down here in a little bit. But first, got a couple of things that I kind of want to show off to you. And also, Happy New Year. This is my first video in 2025. And, let's just say I also have a couple things I kind of want to show off in this video while we're here. So, without further ado, I'll go ahead and show those off before we preview this pretty big game, all things considered. If not, maybe one of the biggest games in regular season history. So, first and foremost, I have a couple of Vikings jerseys that I'd picked up over the last, I'd say, week or two. And, I'll just go ahead and kind of show them off here because one is a style of jersey that I'd been looking for pretty much since I got rid of my other one. And, you'll understand that if you've watched my videos for a while or anything like that, especially kind of going back to the OG days of my YouTube channel. But first off, I have a very unique style, and I guess what you may consider a jersey foul, considering this player never wore this style of jersey, or at least in this configuration, but found this thing for about $35, and, if you know anything about this player, he's sort of a legend around Minnesota and the NFL. Boom. That is right, ladies and gentlemen. It is a Fran Tarkenton in the 02 to 05 Reebok style of jersey. Basically the Dante Culpepper, Randy Moss era of jersey. And in my opinion, this is actually low-key one of my favorite designs that the Vikings have ever had for jerseys. Sort of that like 98 to 05 vibes. The 06 were pretty nice too, even though they were a little hokey. And then obviously I really do like the ones we currently have here. But I'd be interested to see if they actually change those up too, or what they decide to do. But anyway, so this is a Fran Tarkenton 02 to 05 Reebok authentic jersey. And, as you can see here, kind of wrinkly, because, this person definitely enjoyed their jersey. And so the 10 is double-stitched on the front, all the way down to the jock tag, and this bad boy is a size 58. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Reebok was one of those sizes that, especially when you got up in the 50s, they actually did 52, 54, 56, 58, and 60. Whereas, like, Nike and stuff like that, I think they skipped 58 and just went from, 56 to 60. I don't know. Manufacturing is weird. But anyway, this is a size 58. And I don't know if you can read the tag in here, but this is a... trust me, it's made in Korea. As a lot of these early 2000s Reebok jerseys were. Either Korea or El Salvador. With the 10 on the shoulder. The Nordsman on the side with the Reebok Vector. Tarkenton on the back with the 10 double-stitched as well. And, like I say, I've already gotten a little bit of use out of her. So that is my first pickup. And then my second pickup is actually, of a style that I've been looking for a while here. Because for those of you that remember, in 2012, the Minnesota Vikings and the NFL, I should say the NFL, went to Nike. But the Vikings still had their old style of jersey from 2006 to 2012. And, well, I have plenty of 2012, like, home jerseys in the Nike Game, Limited, and Elite. But I used to have a road white 2012 in a Adrian Peterson, but that was a little too small, so I gave that away. And then ever since then, I've been searching, I'd say, for probably the better part of a year or so, until, boom, I found this bad boy. Yes, I know it's a Christian Ponder, get over it. Oof, duh. Still probably one of the biggest whiffs in Vikings history. At least for where he was drafted and stuff like that. Personally, I would have drafted him probably second, third, fourth round grade, but you remember Spielman and drafting quarterbacks. Not good. But anyway, so yeah, this is a Nike game jersey of the 2012 road Nike jersey. Because in 2013, they went to the style of jersey that they currently rock today. So that's why this is kind of a rare jersey, because they only wore these for 1 year. And as you can see here, it has the Nike collar, the NFL shield, and with the purple striping on the back. That was one thing I liked about the 2012 jerseys, is it had the striping color on the back of it. So obviously the road one would have the purple, the home one had the gold. And then obviously the 7, which is heat pressed, and well, let's just say she's seen some better days here. Definitely got some use out of her, washed a few times, but hey, you know, just a little something to rock on Sundays and, you know, throw around in. Size 2XL. Ponder on the back with the Nordsman and the 7 on the back as well, with that stripe down the side, which, again, you either loved or hated. It was very similar to the Broncos style that they just recently got rid of. But, yeah. So those are that. But now on to the big dogs. Sunday Night Football. Detroit, Michigan. Vikings, Lions. For all of the marbles. And if you would have asked me 5 years ago if you ever saw the Vikings and Lions actually meeting up for arguably one of the biggest games in NFC history, I probably would have looked at you like you were crazy. Not, you know, throwing shade or anything, but we know the history of the Lions. We know the history of the Vikings. You know, it's kind of, it is what it is at the end of the day, but now all of a sudden, since Dan Campbell has come into Detroit, I mean, that team has flipped leaps and bounds. I'd even argue more than 180. I'd argue 540 flipped around. Like, I mean, they went from no real hope, no nothing positive, like maybe a winning season every 5 years or so, but nothing really sustainable. And then Dan Campbell came in and, well, yeah. So now, fast forward to today, here we are. Round 2. This was the game my dad and I went to, and we unfortunately lost 31-29 on a, well, Jake Bates field goal, and the Vikings kind of hayucked the last 30 seconds of the game where they had a chance, but I mean, it is what it is at the end of the day. Leaving us with one of our only 2 losses. Ironically enough, the next one is against the Rams, which is another team we could potentially go up into the playoffs. But again, we'll do all that breakdown next week when we actually know what's going on for the playoffs. But, yeah. So, yeah, as I've mentioned before, the reason why this game is so massive is because, well, as I said probably about 5-10 minutes ago in this video, this is for the number 1 seed in the NFC. Not just the North. The number 1 seed. And if you would have asked me in April, in May, after the draft, if I would have thought that we would have been anywhere near the 1 seed, anywhere near the 1 seed, I would have looked at you like you were, well, maybe not crazy is the right word, but I definitely would have been like, well, I mean, you know, even at my highest, you know, floor, I would have had us at maybe 11-6. But no, now we're 14-2. Guaranteed to be no worse than 14-3. Sam Darnold has played some of the best football in the league these last 5 or so weeks. And we're getting healthy at the right time. All of our big pieces that were missing against the Lions last time are now in. And that's going to be huge. Because, again, we didn't have a lot of our big guns last time we played. I mean, let's be honest here. Hawkinson was, about a week away from coming back. We were down Blake Cashman, which we all know how big of a loss that really is. I mean, he's sort of that field general out there who can also bring the wood if he needs to. And yeah, I mean, like I say, we're also catching the Lions at a time where they have a lot of key injuries themselves. They may or may not be getting a couple of their players back, especially Alex Anzalone, which would actually be a pretty big, piece coming back. He's sort of like their Blake Cashman in a way, sort of that like field general who kind of roams around and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, like I say, this game is going to be massive. So how do we beat the Detroit Lions? Why, simple. Outscore them, because at this point their defense is injured to a point where, it's probably going to be a track meet. Let's just be honest here, because that's how the Lions roll. I mean, this year on offense, even with all the injuries and stuff like that, they can put up 40 points like that. Jahmyr Gibbs is still healthy. Amon-Ra St. Brown is arguably a top 10, top 15 receiver in the league and is not afraid to get in those dirty areas. Sam Laporta is literally the second coming of T.J. Hawkinson and George Kittle. Iowa tight ends represent, and all that stuff. So it's like they have still more than enough weapons out there to boom, just go right down the field on you before you can even breathe. And also don't forget, too, they're not afraid to use their offensive linemen as quarterbacks, receivers, or running backs. So, yeah, you don't know what Ben Johnson's going to throw at you. And how do you counter that? Why, simple. You got an army behind you as well with Jefferson, Hawkinson, Addison, Jones, Akers has stepped up. I mean, you've got some weapons yourself that aren't too shabby that can also do about the same thing. Because their secondary, while opportunistic, kind of reminds me a lot of the Vikings secondary, where they, have enough pieces there that can get the job done, but they can also be had. And also try to avoid Kirby Joseph if at all fucking possible, because, well, I don't think we need to go over what happened last year. But anyway. Plus, he did seal the game against San Francisco with a couple key interceptions in the fourth quarter last week. But yeah, so the defense, it's pretty much going to be hold on for dear life and try to stop them once or twice, because honestly, whoever's defense can stop whoever's offense first is probably who's going to be, the one hosting the playoffs for the NFC. I mean, let's be honest here. So yeah, it's going to be a track meet. It's going to be, just smash mouth downhill. Who wants this more football? And like I say, there's a lot of pressure on the Detroit Lions, because going into this season, a lot of people and a lot of the media were saying that the Lions are probably Super Bowl favorites at this point. Plus, they're one of the few teams that can actually beat the Chiefs. It's amazing how that works, isn't it? Like, there's NFC North teams that are like, oh yeah, by the way, this team is a juggernaut. This team is amazing. And then the Lions come in and like, boop, boop, and arguably take down the Giants of the league. That's always been that way, though. It's weird. Even if the Lions have like 3 wins, the 3 wins are against the Chiefs, the Patriots dynasties of the past, and, like the Niners or something. It's just like, hey, NFC North. If you're only going to win a few games a year, you might as well win the big ones, right? But anyway. Oh, man. And also, too, probably the biggest one, obviously, is Sam Darnold. Do not turn the ball over. The fumbling and the interception issues have subsided and have, kind of calmed down recently for the Vikings, which is huge because, again, the Lions are opportunistic. They may not have the world's greatest defense, or the secondary might be this or that or the other thing, but at the end of the day, they still have more than enough talent back there to get the job done, just like the Vikings did. It's kind of interesting how both of these teams are pretty mirror images of each other. Because think about it. You have Jared Goff, who is a cast-off quarterback from the Rams, ironically enough. I mean, they literally traded Matt Stafford to the Rams, and Matt Stafford won a Super Bowl within a year or two. And now Jared Goff is literally looking like an MVP candidate this year under the right offensive scheme with the right offensive weapons and just having some fun. I mean, can't argue that. Plus, Sam Darnold, he finally has the weapons around him with a quarterback coach who knows what he's doing, as well as, weapons that are literally, Jordan Addison is the number one receiver on probably half of the teams in the league. Let's be honest here. He's, probably the focal point receiver on half of the teams in the league. And he's our number two, who's gone off since the free three movement thing on his Instagram here like 6 weeks ago. So, very mirror teams, very mirror images of each other. So, all I know is Sunday Night Football, Lions, Vikings for the number one seed and for the NFC North. But heads up, I do have to work that night, so I'll at least record part of a post game, but I don't know if I'll upload until I get home from work on Monday, just because the 5G Wi-Fi at my work sucks, and it takes literally 2 hours to upload videos. Anything longer than like even 2 minutes, we're talking like over an hour. So I'll at least record my initial reaction, and I might not upload it till I get home and then, kind of like finish off the video. Obviously, it all just depends on what happens in the, game and stuff like that too. But, yeah, then we'll go ahead and break down our playoff matchup because, believe it or not, next week, start the playoffs. Or I guess technically a week from Sunday, start the play. You know what I'm saying here. But, yeah, let's do this, Vikes. Let's do this, Vikings fans. Like, one of the biggest games that this team has had this year. This team is, the mantra being 1-0, 1-0, 1-0, 1-0. Don't focus on the outside noise. Focus on this game ahead here. Focus on a division rival. Focus on that number one seed. Focus on just playing some damn football. And whatever happens, happens. Don't make it more than it needs to be, because, again, this is a big game, big situation, big lights, big everything, really. So, but at the end of the day, it is a football game. Don't try to do anything out of what you've been doing pretty well this entire season. And if you do, we may just mess around and have the playoffs go through Minneapolis this year and not Detroit. And then we'll go from there, boys. But, we made it. We made it. So, until we meet again, this is Jacob. Skol Vikings. Let's get it